an elite player in Jalen. Where do you try to replicate that production? Is probably going to be.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, obviously, Bernie was a great player for us, all ACC guy who took off to the next level, and that's a lot of reps. Over the last 2 years, really, those game reps. And it's hard to, obviously, game reps is hard to replicate in practice. You can't replicate, what's coming in week one from a standpoint of the experience and that type of stuff. But there's guys in the room that's played football too. And I will say this, all the guys in the room, they came here to play football. They came here to play football at a high level. And all the stats and all that walks out of the room with Brenny walking out of the room, none of that stuff carries over anyway. Every year to restart, it's a new year. I'm excited about the guys that are in the room and the competition. We've had a really healthy competition. You got a guy like Olsen Pat Henry, Josh Sapp. They've played in big games these last couple of years, and then you got Christian, who redshirted last year, but at the end of the year he played. Had a big block on the kickoff return in the ACC championship, so they know what it looks like. It's just a matter of, I was telling the radio, we have to have the sense of urgency in fall camp of what's coming, because we're playing. They're going to roll out a football game in Death Valley here in a few weeks, about a month and a half, and they got to be ready to go. And we don't get to play a couple games and see what it feels like. They got to know as soon as we roll it out.
You said they all came here to play football.
Yep.
One of them didn't. One of them came here to play basketball.
Right.
What's realistic? What's realistic?
Well, let me start with this. I lost. We had a little running bet upstairs. I thought that would be the first question of the day. Is basketball player in the room. So I lost.
So you did.
I lost that one. So.
What did you lose though?
Yeah, just a cup of coffee. So
you knew it was coming.
Yeah, I knew it was coming. No, it's fine. Chef, obviously, happy to have Chef, and from a standpoint of, his athleticism because you've seen him on the basketball court, and pretty much all the guys in my room have played basketball in some capacity throughout high school or whatever, but obviously not at this type of level. So it's great to have him in a room. He's done a great job of really transitioning himself over from basketball to football. You walk into a brand new room, you walk into a new building, and he's done a really good job of just kind of blending in. That was my advice to him. Hey, kind of blend in, see how the guys work, and just go replicate that. And he's done a really good job of that. But the flip side of it is the tight ends in the room have done a good job of accepting him into the room, showing him our way and our standard and how things operate in there. So it's been really good to see, which I knew there wouldn't be any issues. The guys in the room are great guys. I know Chef's a good guy too. So it's been really cool to kind of see them intertwine, and he's going to be able to use some of his experiences to help our guys currently in the room, and obviously the guys in the room are going to be able to use their experiences to help them. So excited to have him over here.
Can he be impactful? I mean, he doesn't have a whole lot of time. It's not like you can develop him for 4 years.
Yeah.
Can he be impactful for this team this year?
We'll see. At the end of the day, from a football standpoint, I'm not sure, what you're getting. I know what you're getting from, size of a body and athleticism of watching him play basketball these years. And also, I know what I get from kind of a mindset too. Coach Burnell does a great job in his program with his culture and how he pushes those guys, and obviously being in the tournaments and playing at the level that they've played at. I know what you're getting from that standpoint, but in the summer you don't get to work with these guys hands-on, and that's a big difference in really basketball and football during the summer. Basketball, they're kind of in their spring practice, and they're working with the guys. We don't get to do that in the summer. So from a standpoint of what's he look like from a football player, I don't know, and we're going to have to find out really, really quick because, like you said, his clock he's at the end of his clock, and it's ticking. So we'll see come August. What it looks like. Obviously, I've talked to him about the heat will be different. That'll be something that'll jump on your back really quick. Wearing equipment versus, there's just a lot of different things he's got to get used to, and that doesn't even include the standpoint of, from a terminology and verbiage and just offensive systems. And then you got to turn around and now you got to understand what defenses are doing at this level too. So, obviously he's behind, but we're working really hard to get him caught up. And like I said, I think the guys in the room have done a great job of doing the same. Not looking as a threat, but looking as a teammate. And they've done, just from what I've heard, they've done a really good job of trying to teach him the why, the how, not only in the workouts, but also when it comes to offensively what we're doing.
For the first time in a long time, you don't have that established, experienced guy in your room. Does that change your approach as a coach?
Not really. A few years ago, it was flipped. Davis Allen was that guy, and Brenny was kind of like your Olsen, a 11P backup, but a 12P starter, So at the end of the day, you got to get, especially at tight end, you got to get multiple guys ready to play anyway, because you're going to be in a 12 personnel world. We'll play some 13 personnel. So it doesn't really change anything from the way we practice, the way we meet, the accountability I hold with them in regards to learning the system, understanding what to do. I think, like I said, the sense of urgency for me is that they have to have a sense of urgency of what that experience factor. We got to get that a lot quicker because there is so many snaps that went out of the room. But I got full confidence. Like I said, Olsen's played in some big games around here. He knows what it looks like. Sapp's played in some big games around here. He's the old guy in the room. He knows what it looks like. And then Christian at the end of the year, once his red shirt was done and we could play him some, he played, whether special teams or a little bit offensively. So I just got to make sure that my biggest job right now is just getting them to understand that you don't have. It's different when you're preparing and all the pressure is not on you. All the from a snap standpoint, from a rep standpoint. So I got to get them to understand that that pressure, that feeling is going to be a little bit different. At the end of the day, football's football, right? And be confident in what you're doing. But I will say this, with Brenny playing as many snaps as he has over the last couple of years, and the experience that he had, I was able, from a practice standpoint, you had to get him as an older guy. You didn't, practice was important in certain parts of practice, but in other parts of practice, I could get some of those reps onto some of the younger guys and get them kind of on a faster track of getting on the field, knowing what to do, how to execute, all those things. So from a practice standpoint, these guys got a lot more reps than you would think. From a game standpoint is where you're just limited in that experience from last year.
Brenny was that safety valve for Cade in a lot of ways. How do these guys gain his trust in a month? Yeah. Or is that something that maybe they've worked on over the summer and it's pretty practical?
That's a good question. It's not. Brenny was such a he'd been here a while and he's a big target. So I think some of the safety valve comes from that too. You got a big target. You got range of motion is a little bit different. You can miss, and he can make it right. But the flip side is they did have a lot of time together. But we're not just rolling out the balls here in a couple weeks, and that's the first time Cade's ever thrown to Olsen, Christian, Sapp, whatnot, all spring. Olsen wasn't out there because of shoulder injury, but all spring they got some time together. This summer in skills and drills, they've been spending time together. So, there's got to be. He's probably, the trust factor is probably higher with a guy that played a ton of reps. right? But that's not going to change the fact that these guys are going to play at a high level, and that eventually, you know, it'll all work itself out.
Coach, at what point did you realize that the possibility of Ian Shefflin being in the room was real? And I know you haven't coached him yet, but what about him excites you about coaching him?
Yeah, you know, I'm excited about everybody in the room. You know, Chef's the guy that is coming into the room now. But, you know, like I said, Olsen, Pat Henry, and Christian, and Sapp. You got Banks Pope that's played a bunch of football here in 13 personnel type sets for us. And then we moved Charlie Johnson over from receiver, and he's put on some good weight. And then Logan Brooklyn is our freshman that's come in. So the room it's like I said, you know, it's a healthy competition that's been going on in the room this spring and going into the summer, and Chef's done a good job of just kind of being a part of that and jumping in and trying to figure out things. From a standpoint of when did I know it was coming, you know, it was kind of tossed around out there, you know, after basketball season was over, and then he had some time where he needed to think about, you know, what his future basketball looked like, and then what this possibility and opportunity looked like, and from there you just kind of letting him be with his family and make some decisions, and eventually it's either he's going to do it or he's not going to do it. He's chosen to do it, and yeah, he's chosen to do it, and he's got to be in 100%, and he's done that. So I'm excited about the room with all the guys, and obviously bringing in a new guy in, it's just going to add to it.
What about him physically, translates well to football, and also the intangibles, his competitiveness?
Yeah, I mean, you can't